The Mel Carmine Show begins in just 1 minute. Support the movement. Visit QFS1776.com for exclusive one-of-a-kind merch that makes a powerful statement. Protect your wealth. Cash is trash. Go to carminesgold.com and secure real assets, silver, gold, delivered anywhere in the U.S. Text Mel at 786-704-8817. Looking to acquire XRP? Minimum is $10,000 investment, and there is no limit, even up to $100 million worth. Again, text Mel with full details at 786-704-8817 and allow up to 24 hours for a response. And if by chance you're visiting Cape Canaveral or you are a local, visit stayingalive.com, alive with two E's, and recharge your body at the cellular level. The show with your host, Mel Carmine, starts right now. Hey guys, we got the one and only Brad Olson, who's a dear friend of mine. We never met in person yet, but I'm sure one day we will. He has turned me down again at the Quantum Summit, so don't get pissed off at me. Get pissed off at him. We're doing a junior Quantum Summit in Cape Canaveral. I'm still waiting to hear from my landlord so that we could take over the space downstairs, because I think we're going to probably sell out upstairs way too quick. As a matter of fact, the tickets are starting to roll out pretty fast right now. So it's too bad you're not going to be there, but I understand you came out with a new book on a subject that's dear to my heart, which is Antarctica. And we know there's a lot of stuff going on in Antarctica. We just don't know what it is. I know you had the cojones to try and get to as close to that ice wall as possible without getting your head blown off. So you might want to maybe dive into that story. A lot of people don't know that story. But the reality is that I started to believe that the extraterrestrials come from that extra terra that's next to us on the ice wall, and that we do live on a flat Earth, and that we do have a dome. I believe all of that. I really do. As crazy as it may sound. When you watch that missile going up here in Cape Canaveral, it always goes like this. It never goes straight up. Okay? When you see the rainbow, it goes like this. It never goes straight up. So you have to start asking questions. Obviously, Brad, you know we've been paying for our own demise for the longest time. We're actually paying to be dumbed down, and we're funding the whole thing, and we gladly continue to pay for it all, which is the insanity of it all. What do you think? Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about your new book, and tell us what you think is on the other side of that wall.
Hey there, Mel. Thank you so much for having me on again. Always great pleasure to speak with you. And yeah, like you said, I went down there. That's me on the sailboat exactly 7 years ago on the Chief One sailboat. And I spent 26 days on that boat, including 15 days in Antarctica. Every day was a new adventure. And, I was going around just asking questions at all the research stations we went to. Have you heard of any of the big UFOs supposedly under the ice? They go by the nickname Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria. They've been known about since the 1970s, but nobody seemed to know about it when I was there. I asked them, have you heard anything about the pyramids or antediluvian civilizations? And the answer was no to that too. Although in my research in the book, I have several locations with pyramids on maps, on Google Earth, and photographs of these pyramids all across the continent. And so this is what the secrets of Antarctica are. It's just all this unknown history of this ice continent. And you asked about what's under the ice wall. I would call it the ice shelf. But we came across in my research of this book, there was this guy who in Europe who is very well adept at researching Antarctica, and the German U-boat maps would show these routes that the submarines could sail to get to this land under the ice. So your question was, what do I think is under there? Well, the Germans plotted it out. They actually saw it, and they made these maps, which are just phenomenal. To me, Mel, this is the smoking gun that there is another world under there. These are from the German U-boat maps that show these continental land masses that cannot be seen from the surface, that are under the ice or beyond the wall, whatever you want to call it. But I would have to say these have been authenticated. We've shown the provenance of how they were acquired by the Germans or by the Soviets at the German headquarters in Berlin at the very end of World War II. Because remember, the Soviets were the first to get to Berlin. So they got the lion's share of all the records, maps, charts, plans that the Germans had, even the UFOs that they were designing. Some of those fell into Soviet hands. And so they sat on it for years. And then after the Berlin Wall came down in the early 1990s, when the Soviet Union started to collapse, you could show up in Moscow with a suitcase full of hard currency, and people would go up into the Kremlin and say, "Well, what do you want?" In the KGB offices, "Oh, I want alien autopsy videos." "Okay, here you go." "I want UFO crash scenes." "All right, we got them." And then this guy, Nicholas Subotin, he collected the maps. And here you can see him flipping a whole stack of them. That's why I say there is providence for the authenticity of these U-boat maps, because there's hundreds of them and they're all stamped, dated, sealed, signed by admirals, and they were all collected by the Soviet Union at the end of World War II and then sold to the highest bidder in the 1990s. And this guy Subotin, he's just making some YouTube videos in the last couple of years showing all this stuff that he got on the black market, and we've been collecting it and putting it together in my new book. So
Very,
there's a
very
long answer to
interesting.
your short question.
Yeah. What do you think is on the other side of the ice wall? I mean, if you had to speculate, obviously you haven't been there. I haven't been there. We're not allowed to be there because we're still driving an extension of a Model T Ford and we're contained to this planet, scraping the earth like a bunch of turkeys, right? And
Yeah.
so, what do you? I mean, do you believe that there's life extension technology? Do you believe that these guys are able to live thousands of years? Do you believe they have pristine air to breathe and the right kind of soil to plant their crops in? What do you think they have that is so much more advanced than we are? Do they have jobs? Do they go to work like us, or did they move into that artificial intelligence years ago with robots, thousands of years ago, and we're now just catching up? And will they eventually take the dome off and we'll be able to experience a real space? Is there a way to get to space if you go on the other side of the ice wall and we're the only ones that are contained? There's a million questions that you can ask, right?
Yeah. So what I think is beyond there is exactly what the Germans describe, and that is Agartha, the land of the advanced races. And they're advanced because they have this technology, which would include health extension technology. I think they're very well adept at many of these technologies. Well, where did they come from? How did they get to this area? And who are they? Well, they're generally described as very tall, even giants, and they're also described as the descendants of some of the lost civilizations that were once on the earth, including Lemuria, most especially, and also might be some survivors of Atlantis down there. Because I have in this book some of the GPS coordinates and what look like grid-like patterned cities under the ice that were both being exposed now because of the melting snow, but also because they have sonar scanning radar equipment that can look at this stuff. And it's coming back with what looks like a grid-like pattern of a city. So it's really exciting time in Antarctica research, because even NASA is coming out with images and posting them of these what very much look like some kind of settlements underneath the ice and maybe
Interesting.
even beyond it. Because when you say beyond, then I kind of think what's below it and what might even be in that hollow mass that Admiral Byrd discovered. And he describes it in his diary that he goes to this earthly paradise. It's even in the subtitle of his book that he gets in his plane because he discovered the South Pole. He was the very first flight to go over the South Pole in 1929. Now, check this out. That's his flight route in 1929. He gets to the pole and then he goes beyond it by another 150 miles. You think, hey, we made it. Let's go back to Little America. No, he goes and sees the giant hole out there. And then he goes back during Operation High Jump. And in his diary, he calls it the missing diary of Admiral Richard E. Byrd, a secret expedition and journey to a paradise inside the earth. So that's what I think is beyond Antarctica. And he would always say in his interviews that there is this land beyond the poles, very cryptic message, because if you are at the South Pole, supposedly any direction you go is just ice for hundreds of miles. But he's saying that there's a land beyond the pole. So what does that mean?
Well, let me ask you the obvious question. Is Brad Olson a flat earther at this point?
Well, no, not really, because I've been to Antarctica and I've set foot on it. I've got pictures on my phone if you want to see them, Mel. So I know that there is a landmass down there.
Right. So you don't think we're flat? You think we're round? You think that this whole body of water of 900 quintillion, quadrillion gallons of water is all contained and not going to spill? And we've seen a lot of the anti-gravity, mishaps that happen on camera with NASA. Never a straight answer, right? And so we leaves us asking a lot of questions.
Right. Right. Well, there's gravity that keeps the water on the surface, if that's an answer you wanted me to give. But I've been to the continent, Mel. I've been to within 1 degree of the Antarctic Circle.
So you think we're round, concave?
Yeah, yeah. So when I was on the boat with my captain, I love maps. I draw maps, I study maps, I collect maps. And when I was on the boat, I'm looking over the shoulder of my captain, and everywhere we were, you could see on the radar, but then you could see beyond it. And if there was a mountain range or another island with mountains, or even in the depths of the ocean, it was showing up on these radar maps. And it was exactly like we saw out there. So it wasn't like there was this hole in the ice that we had to sail through. Although there's a book called The Smoky God, and he sails from North Pole into the hole in the ice up there and then pops out in the South Pole. So I don't know what you make of it with more of the inner Earth type stuff. But when I was down there, all the maps checked out to what I was looking at with my own eyes.
I hear you. I want you to watch a little short clip. This is one of my favorite flat Earth videos, and see what you make of it. I would be very interested in getting your input. Let me share my screen. Tell me if you see my screen.
Can.
You can. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you can hear the sound.
We want to go from New Zealand to Argentina, which is right about here. And it's a direct path. Can definitely make it in one shot. So let's see what Google Flights has to say. Auckland to Argentina. Just making up a date here. Explore. Okay, now we're going to select Buenos Aires. Let's go ahead and select the first flight. Here are our options. Okay, so on United we have Auckland going to San Francisco to Houston, finally into Buenos Aires. But why? That seems like a waste of gas to go from Auckland all the way to San Francisco, over to Texas, and then all the way down to Argentina. Okay, now hear me out. Let's see what the flat Earth model depicts. You just have to see this for yourself. Look at this. So this is New Zealand. Aha, San Francisco, Houston, down to Argentina. You would not be able to make it on one take. We want to go from we want to
Your thoughts?
Well, I would say there's not a whole lot of people that are doing that flight and that route to make it a daily flight. Maybe you can go direct, but the more direct route would be over Antarctica. But that map just shows the hemisphere of the Earth the way it is. Um, why would they go up to San Francisco? I think probably just because that's where the demand is for flights.
Yeah, but but when you make it a flat Earth, it's a straight line.
Yeah, right.
This really makes a really valid argument on the flat, and flat earthers have, I think it's become the biggest movement, as big as the QAnon, if not bigger, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that, and including myself, I believe we're flying. When you fly in a straight line, don't you? That's why it's called an airplane. We're flying on a plane, right? And then when you're
Yeah.
landing, you can see the nose start to tilt a little bit. As you start to descend, you'll see the nose. You can visibly see it from the inside of the craft if you're very observant, right?
Yeah.
So why isn't it adjusting for the Earth's curvature every 20 miles, every 30 miles, every 100 miles when you're moving at 600 miles an hour?
Yeah, that's right. Because I guess it's just that the Earth is that big that you don't see all the way down. But there was a flight, they used to do tourist flights to Antarctica from New Zealand, and it crashed on the flank of Mount Erebus, which is
Mm-hmm.
one of the 14 active volcanoes in Antarctica. And there's still wreckage of the plane there. But ever since then, they did cancel all flights,
Mm-hmm.
commercial flights going over the continent
Mm-hmm.
because of that crash. Now, you could say, well, if they're flying high enough altitude, but there are no flights because there are no fly zones there too. And that doesn't really make any sense either, Mel. But since that flight of the New Zealand Air on the Mount Erebus, um, they say that they're getting too close, that they're starting to see things that they shouldn't have, and they didn't want tourists with cameras on any of the planes flying over Antarctica. So there are definitely some no-fly zones and places that you cannot go. And one of them, the most prominent, is the one at the South Pole.
What is it that they don't want us to see there if you had to pinpoint two or three particular things?
Well, certainly the big hole in the ice, because that would be an entrance to this inner world. And so I interviewed Brian S., who actually saw the hole in the ice, and he described it to me in great detail. And everybody on his flight saw it too, because they had to do an emergency evacuation, and they took the shortcut over the no-fly zone. When they were coming back, oh, they're going to go take a closer look. Over the radar says somebody, "Hey, what are you doing? Don't deviate off the flight plan." And
Mm-hmm.
they had missed it. But when they got back, they got read the riot act because they had seen it. And it was basically the NSA who has a building down there in McMurdo, which is the biggest secret that nobody likes to talk about. It's kind of like Area 51 that everybody knows about. And these presumably NSA guys, they debriefed Brian S. and the crew and basically said, "You didn't see what you just saw." Because if that is the entrance, as Admiral Byrd discovered, into this realm, which has very advanced civilization down there, then the NSA would be covering it up. And that's kind of their job, is to
Cover
collect
shit
crash
up.
retrievals.
Never a straight answer.
Yeah, all right, those guys.
So yeah, here's one more that I think you might enjoy. Again, tell me if you can see my screen, and tell me give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
Literally exposes how crazy it is to believe in the ball earth lie. You need to watch this, okay?
Ball here, pour a whole bunch of water on it, and watch none of the water fall off the bottom. It all sticks onto it. And while that's happening, and the water stays stuck. Not only that, you're at 1,000 miles an hour spinning this way, which also at 67,000 miles an hour, 67,000 miles an hour while spinning 1,000, you're circling around the sun. And while that's happening, you're also chasing the sun through the Milky Way at 514,000 miles an hour. And every single night, the stars are exactly the same.
Like he said, the stars are exactly the same. While all those movements are supposedly happening, Polaris doesn't move. It literally doesn't move. And the stars all do perfect circles around Polaris into infinity. This is how it always goes, nonstop, 24/7, 365 days of the year, for over 5,000 fucking years since the Dendera stones. They're always the same constellations. Now, how is that possible? How is it possible for Polaris to always stay fixed and stationary in the night sky, to never move, if we're spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, orbiting the sun at 66.6 thousand miles per hour? Funny number that is, guys. And hurtling through space at millions of miles per hour. If that was the case, the stars would be going fucking crazy. They'd be doing all sorts of crazy patterns, not perfect circles. Our ancestors always told us that the stars, the heavenly bodies, move above us. Exactly what we view and exactly what we see. And we observe with our own two eyes is exactly what our ancestors told us. Now, I want you to listen to this very closely. This is exactly how they tell you the truth in plain sight.
No. There is no such thing as gravitational pull. We lied to you.
What was the scariest moment of the journey?
Scariest? It didn't happen. It could have been scary. Circuit breaker. It didn't happen.
Whoa.
Oh, now surely this is the right spot. Look at this. This area is filled with books about pretend people.
That's right, Grover. This is the fiction section. Fiction means it's a made-up story. This is the fiction section. Fiction means it's a made-up story.
Now, one thing I really want your generation to embrace is that the Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth.
The Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth. Kind of like all of our ancestors told us. Wow, that's crazy, eh? And you guys believe NASA, which in Hebrew means to deceive. Laughable. Wow. The truth shall set you free, but you need to decide to wake up now or never. And if you don't wake up, enjoy this life. Peace and love.
You know, I don't give a shit who you are, flat earther, not flat earther. Maybe you believe a little bit, maybe you believe a lot, maybe you're all in. That video always leaves everybody saying, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'd never seen that clip about Buzz Aldrin and the moon landing, because usually he's very protective of that knowledge. I've seen him slug people for trying to get him to put his hand on a Bible. Of course, you know, Buzz Aldrin was down there about 10 years ago, and he had to be medevaced out of there too. And he said in a cryptic tweet, "I've seen the face of evil, we're all in danger," and then took that tweet down. But as far as the Polaris and the stars go, I've been to the Southern Hemisphere a couple times, Mel, and the prominent constellation down there is called the Southern Cross, which you cannot see in the Northern Hemisphere. Mm-hmm. So there are stars that are only seen in the southern half of the world, and you cannot see the North Star, mm-hmm. Polaris, which is basically directly above the North Pole. So if you think of the Earth spinning as a top, do you remember when we were in go to the amusement park and they had those rides that would spin real fast and you'd get pressed up against the wall?
Oh yeah. And then the floor would drop.
Yeah, and the floor would drop. Yeah, but you stay stuck to the wall.
Yeah,
is the thing. And so I think that's the basic principle between behind how the the water and everything sticks to the earth in a way too with that spin and with gravity. But he didn't bring up the fact that there's a whole series of constellations in the southern hemisphere that we can't see up here. Also, the North Star was a huge benefit for mariners when they were discovering the planet during the age of exploration. Once they crossed below the equator, though, and they couldn't use the North Star as a navigational instrument, they would tend to get lost in the southern hemisphere because they didn't have that marker that was always fixed in the sky.
Right,
So I
right.
mean, there's historical ways to look at the two hemispheres as well, and the age of exploration, which of course I had documented in a chapter in my new book called "The Map of the Ancient Sea Kings," and this is a title that Charles Hapgood used about these maps of Antarctica, not just years or decades, but centuries before it was discovered, which shows this landmass and shows Antarctica sometimes with a channel through it, with other features, and especially the Perry Reese map, which shows animals down there. And there definitely are no animals. I'll tell you, I was there 7 years ago. There are no land animals. There are penguins and seals which jump ashore, but there are nothing bigger than a tiny little insect that lives on the land. And of course, there's no trees or bushes either. It really is just a frozen land down there.
Interesting. Well, let's watch one more just for shits and giggles. I think we're onto something here. Let's see. All right, one more. Here we go. This is a good one too. You can see it?
Yeah.
But I just picked random questions. Is the Earth flat? Oh, here we go. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this one, and I know for a fact people are just gonna scroll, but that's fine. Yes, it is. 100% it's flat. Matter of fact, 1,000% it's flat. Working for the Department of Navy, I can assure you it is definitely flat. The weaponry that we use, the technology that we have on the ships, all laser guided, trust me, wouldn't work on a ball. Let's just put it that way. It is a flat Earth plane. That's why you fly on an airplane, okay? You live on a plane, a flat plane. Just so you know, open up your Bible. It will tell you in the Bible that the Earth is stationary. It does not move, and it's flat.
What do you think of that? What do you think of that argument? It's in the Bible.
Yeah, it is in the Bible, and they talk about the firmament and the the dome above, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's correct. It's they believed. Remember during the time of Columbus, his crew was very scared that they were going to get to the edge of the world and fall off. Didn't happen. And in the time of Magellan, he sailed all the way around, one direction. When I was backpacking around in the 1990s, after I taught English in Japan, I just traveled mostly overland in one direction, and I made it back to where I started. So if you go in one direction, you'll eventually make it all the way back.
So, the only thing I get to say is so much that we don't know, and there's so much that we just keep paying into, and the people upstairs, the teachers don't know. They're just as dumb as we are, if not dumber. Okay, and we just keep paying into a system that keeps dumbing us down, keeps our children stupid, and we're funding the whole fucking thing, and nobody's asking questions. You know what I mean? Nobody is stopping for 1 second saying, wait a minute, this doesn't look right. This doesn't feel right. This feels like this. This feels like that. You know what I mean? And why are you not allowed to have a flying machine that could go at 100,000 foot and get 100,000 foot view? Maybe you might discover something you're not supposed to discover. Maybe your machine is intelligent enough to be able to fly over that extraterrestrial wall, okay, the ice wall, and go meet some of our ancestors that are probably a lot more intelligent than we are, that have technologies that they don't want you to have. there's so many, you come up with a trillion questions, literally,
Right, right.
you know.
Yeah, well, you got a point there. I mean, we know
I, I'm
that
a,
we,
I ask weird questions, dude. I'm a weird dude. I've been at this for like 40 years, and nothing seems to be right. And I've been an asshole ever since.
that's cool. I like that.
Yeah,
Hey, that's a good place to be because if we don't ask questions, we're not gonna come
right.
to any conclusions or get any positive answers. And look, yeah, we know that we've been lied to and distorted truths and withheld evidence for quite a long time. I just look at free energy, for example. We've had electric cars since the 19th century. Tesla invented the Wardenclyffe Tower. I just went there in October for a conference. It's amazing
Right.
what he invented. Just one man
Right.
that we're still playing catch up and trying to develop. And there's a
Hey,
place in Texas that built the Wardenclyffe Tower that's trying to reproduce his work.
yeah, you're preaching to the
Unbelievable.
choir. I mean, I own a wellness center in Cape Canaveral that is remnants of that technology in Cape Canaveral. We have people that have taken their own studies and got curious, and they have the wherewithal, they have the money to be able to do it, and they've done blood studies, extensive blood studies, and the results that we're getting back are freaking flabbergasting results because they're saying, hey, your telomeres are growing the other way. You just extended your life by 23% by sleeping in Cape Canaveral. That is crazy. When you
Wow.
come to think of it, the telomeres are 23% longer. They slept there for a month. They send the blood in before and after, and 23% longer telomeres means longer life, right?
Yeah,
And that's what
that's
we have in Cape
remarkable.
Canaveral. You would think that they would be knocking my doors down. You would think that I would have to have a facility the size of a stadium with like 900,000 screens up, right? To be able
Yeah.
to facilitate everybody, but no. But I think we're having a turnaround. I was watching the movie with my wife not too long ago, the last Mission Impossible.
Uh-huh.
And lo and behold, towards the almost the end of the movie, they mention hyperbaric chambers. Why would they mention hyperbaric chambers unless we're getting ready to make a turn in the evolution of things, right? Then we watched another movie, and you know that water, if you put frequency to water, it creates a perfect geometric shape, right? You're familiar with that, right?
Yeah, like Dr. Emoto was doing, looking at the water crystals and getting
Exactly.
beautiful mandala shapes.
Right. And if you add vibration and sound to that, it makes the most amazing patterns. You think you're on a hit of ayahuasca or something, right? And I can tell you that we're watching this movie where a bad guy's chasing this lady and she jumps off this mountain into a river, right? And she starts to swim upwards. And as she's swimming upwards, right? As she going like this with her hands, the water is making these geometric patterns of when you put sound to water. And I'm saying, I said to my wife, "Did you see that?" She says, "Yes." I says, "Are they sending us a message?" She said, "Yes." So something's getting ready to happen. I watch very closely all these little things, and we'll see what happens. But I think that we're on the verge of literally shaking up the medical industry with sound frequency and vibration as the new medicine of the 21st century.
There's another subject that we've been withheld the most important information on because also about 100 years ago, you had Royal Raymond Rife, who created sound frequency technology that could match the frequency of cancer, for example, and just blow it up out of the body and not do any damage to the other tissue. So we've had the cancer cure for about 90 years, and the medical industry just crushed that guy. But you can go down to Mexico and use a Rife machine. And I know people who have had being diagnosed with cancer, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
go down there and get positive results. But you can't get chemo first. If you get
Right.
chemo first, then it's not going to work for you.
Here, there's an old saying when it comes to lying, human beings lie, but babies and dogs and animals, they don't lie. They tell the truth, right?
Right.
And so check this out. Tell me that's not wild.
That's cute.
Tell me that's not wild. We do sound baths. Like when you do things inside our scalar energy room, it literally increases the intensity of whatever it is you're doing by a factor of 10. That's a proven fact. So when we do a sound bath, like people have gone to sound baths that are not inside a scalar wave room, outside of a scalar wave room, and they're amazing. But when you take that thing and put it inside, now I know people that have done both, outside of the room, inside of our room, it is next level, right? And we do these like on a bi-weekly basis a lot of times, these sound baths. We have people that come in with gongs and all kinds of bowls, and it is, bro, you'll be asleep in 2 minutes flat.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It's truly wild. So I think we're on the cusp of great things to come for sure. And that's just,
you mentioned sound, frequency, and vibration as a future form of medicine. I would agree. And then also colors also have different properties. So, for example, infrared is what they're infrared saunas that also help the body detoxify. And then on the other end of the spectrum is the ultraviolet. And sometimes you go into a bathroom in Whole Foods and you turn on the light and it's an ultraviolet light because that can kill germs and other micro products.
Totally.
So there's still so much that has
there's so much technologies that I'm trying to get my hands on, like this one here, for example, right? I don't have no idea what this technology is, but I need it. I want it like yesterday. And I want to add it to part of our modalities. We got like all kinds of modalities. And we got a plasma med bed, which is amazing. A light system technology that is mind blowing. Then we have, it's what is it called? Brown's gas, also known as hydrogen therapy, right? And that's wild because when you're using it in our system and you're being bombarded with the frequency from the scalar wave, plus you're doing the hydrogen gas, it's unbelievable, right? So check this out. This is another technology. I don't know what it is, but if anybody knows what this technology is, I need to know down at the bottom, okay? But check this out. Ready? This will blow your mind.
With your stimulators off, with your right hand, if you possibly can, touch your nose, touch my finger.
Parkinson's disease.
Okay. On the real test, do you think you could pick that up for me? Right, okay. Should we switch it on? Okay. All right.
That's it.
Does that feel better?
That feels good.
Should we try and do these assessments again? With this hand only, and with your right index finger, touch your nose, touch my finger.
Wow.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, you're right. Good. Alright. Yeah. Can you try picking that cup up for me with your right hand? Well done.
It's incredible. That is amazing. That is an amazing change. For him to even just drink is great.
That deserves a round of applause.
Can you imagine? This
Well,
is what
I
drives
think
Mel.
this
This is what drives Mel Carmine, if you really want to know. You know?
Well, this is like the Rife technology, Mel.
Yeah.
If you haven't looked into it, I would say check it out.
Yeah.
Because I tried one up at James Gilliland's ranch, and I was there with the crew from Ground Zero, including Clyde Lewis, and we all had a go on it. Now you got to do it more frequently, but we all kind of plugged in the code for whatever resonant frequency for whatever ailment that we had, and we wanted to try to cure. And the very surface of it was, yeah, I think I had the sniffles or something, and kind of made that go away. Only did it for about 15 or 20 minutes. But all of us and everything around us has a resonant frequency to it. And so when you match that resonant frequency, in this case with the guy with the Parkinson's, maybe it was just hitting that tone that made that go away.
So, you know, these technologies have been hidden from us for the longest time. They've been confiscated from us. They confiscated all the bells during World War II. They put a crack in all of the bells. There's a reason for that. You know, they realized, oh my God, when we ring the bells, the whole town gets healed, you know, and you can't have that because the pharmaceutical industry needs to make money and then they keep your ass sick. They can't make any money if your ass is healthy, right? But look at this guy. This guy, I don't know what frequency they shot through him, but within literally a minute and a half, he went from shaking to picking up a glass of water to touching a finger to touching his nose. Amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Amazing.
So we this is what I believe the future is going to look like, but we got to keep pushing the envelope. It's going to take people like me and you to say enough. We're not doing that anymore. We're doing this instead, right?
Well, I was having this conversation with Carrie Cassidy a couple months ago about the med beds and just talking about all the great possibilities for extending life without disease. And she says, but Brad, there's still a depopulation agenda. They're not going to release the med beds while they're still trying to kill all of us. And I guess she's kind of got a point, you know, that we've got to take this cabal
but
down.
then there's people like me that are saying, you know what, let's push the envelopes. You're starting to see a lot of videos popping up on X and on Facebook and on TikTok and everywhere, telling the presidents of the world, all of them combined, to stop spraying us like lab rats.
That would be a good start.
Yeah. You're starting to see a lot of these videos, and these people, these videos are getting a lot of reposts in the thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, which means people are resonating with this. They're saying, yes, we don't want to be sprayed anymore. The bottom line is, I don't know if you've seen this or if you've been, cognizant of this, but the reality is you're actually seeing more testosterone commercials. Boost your testosterone than ever before. Testosterone is their new main drug that they want to sell to shoot you with testosterone shots, which is the worst thing for you because your body will never produce, after you start doing that, your body will never naturally produce testosterone on its own ever again. You're going to be on that drug forever. So they spray you. What's to say that it's not messing with your junk down there?
Yeah, right.
And sperm, libido. They don't like us. There's a depopulation agenda. Right. If they can fuck with your testosterone, do you think that plays right into their depopulation agenda? Yes. So now they're trying to sell you a drug to correct the problem. Problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem. They have the solution. And voila. It's introduced to the population as here it is. We're the saviors of humanity. Take this drug now because now you can bang your wife all over again. You can bang your girlfriend all over again. You can have an extra curricular activity on the side because your libido's up to 840, right?
That's what they're trying to sell us.
It's like, am I the only one that's seen like 1,000 freaking testosterone freaking commercials? I'm
Yeah,
sure there's a bunch of us,
they're pushing
right?
it.
My question again becomes this: is what's in this chemtrails, and why are
Right.
they pushing testosterone pills
Yeah.
or shots? I think one plays right into the other.
Well, you've seen all these videos that have come out recently from the storm that passed through the south, and people are putting a lighter or a torch to the snow and it's not melting and it's turning black. So that has to be chemical additives from the chemtrail that mixed with the moisture of the snow that's coming down. And yeah, it's ridiculous. Now, what
Precisely my
about
point.
Florida? I thought you guys outlawed chemtrails, but
Fla-
people say they
they
still see them
disappear
down
for
there.
3 weeks and then they keep coming back, which
Yeah,
means
but shouldn't it be illegal?
the sanctimonious is powerless. He should have like I said earlier, he should have a power of attorney for one thing only, and that is to activate the Air Force here in Florida to get these cocksuckers, land them at a Air Force base, and bring them down to Guantanamo.
Yeah.
Donald Trump. My question here is to you now. Okay, how difficult is for you to give power to all the governors that this stuff can no longer continue? And you are giving the authority to the local governors because your plate is full. You got to have soldiers doing your bidding for you, doing good deeds. How difficult is it to give the power to the local governors of each state saying, when this happens, you call the Air Force, say, hey, do your job. Go get these motherfuckers
Yeah,
and land
exactly.
them and arrest them and tell George Soros, we're coming for you. And Bill Gates, we're coming for you.
Yeah, and until there is a real threat to these globalists, they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. And you must be as disappointed as me that there
Look,
haven't been the mass
if I
arrests
can have
yet.
my cake and eat it too, not only will we land them, not only by the time that cockpit door opens and we're escorting the pilots out of that cockpit, but by the time they get down the stairs, I promise you, if Mel Carmine can have their cake and eat it too, they're going to be bleeding from every orifice of their fucking body.
Yeah,
You
do it.
understand?
Yeah, I do.
They're gonna get bitch slapped Brooklyn style. Capiche?
I capiche.
You understand?
Yeah, because they're killing us. They're
Yeah,
poisoning
of course
the
it
planet.
is. Of course it is. And nobody, and all these normies walking around thinking that everything's normal. I call them, all these people who think I'm a Republican. What they watch? They watch. I call them Fox News Republicans. That's what they are. I know a few friends of mine, without mentioning any names, who are big channels. They're Fox News parakeets.
Yep.
That's
the mainstream media. But more and more people, especially on the right, are moving over to alternative media because that's where the real news is coming from. I've not watched television in years. And if I happen to be somewhere where it's on and I catch a few minutes of it, my jaw hits the floor. It's like, wow, people really believe this junk. So you really got to tune out of all that and start tuning into people like you, Mel, and get the real news and what's going on in the
I'm a
world.
little hardcore, and but because I'm when you do what I do for 40 years, you get pretty pissed off.
Yeah, well, you're just getting a little jaded. That's all.
Yeah, but it's been fun having you on. Again, we should have you on more often. I wish I could clone myself. So, but anyway, needless to say, too bad we can't get you down to the Quantum Summit. But guys, before I go, I'm not going to do a commercial on this one, but if you need more than $10,000 worth of XRP, I'm your guy. If you need millions of dollars worth of XRP, I'm your guy. If you need silver and gold, I'm your guy. 786-704-8817, carminesgold.com, 786-704-8817. If you happen to be in Cape Canaveral, stop by and say hello. It's Staying Alive. Staying Alive with two E's. The other one belongs to the Bee Gees, right? 166 Center Street, and that we are at Suite 200 on the second floor. March 27th, 28th, and 29th. The 27th is going to be a meet and greet and some kind of special VIP dinners, etc. The famous Jerry Reed is going to be there, demonstrating a free energy technology machine on stage. And if you don't think there'll be at least 5 or 6 spooks in the audience, you'll be making mistakes. They'll be there, especially when you're broadcasting that you're demonstrating a working free energy technology machine on stage. Believe me, there'll be at least 5 or 6 spooks in the audience. And I will get the call to that from not one person, but more than one saying, Mel, be careful, you're on their radar. Okay. So it is what it is. You know, I like to fly like by the seat of my pants, like Maverick and Top Gun, but I'm having fun while I'm doing it. Right. So
there you go.
What else is front and center for Brad Olson? How do they find you?
Yeah, well, my conference schedule is on bradolson.com, and all my books, including the new Secrets of Antarctica and my esoteric book series, which has a lot of information about new technology and new health that we spoke about today in future esoteric and modern esoteric, as well as beyond esoteric. You've got a lot of new technology that's coming online, and being healthy, I do believe, is a choice. And it's a choice between knowledge and ignorance, because we're not getting the answers from big pharma or big pharma, as I
Well,
call
they're
it.
making it very difficult for you when they inject your food with things you don't want in your food, and when they're spraying you like a lab rat, and when they're spraying your fruits and vegetables, unless you have your own Garden of Eden and you have like this big tarp of plastic over 20 hectares of land where you block all that bullshit out of your soils and make your own compost, your things are your choices are a little bit limited, Brad.
Yeah, they really are. And so we have to look at what are the alternatives. And that's the alternative healing, the alternative medicine, and the alternative lifestyles that haven't kept up with reality. And that is living a long, healthy, fruitful life. So
absolutely,
I just invite people to check out my books, and also other authors like Leo Zagami and Michael Jaco, Laura Eisenhower are also on cccpublishing.com. And you can get some of those books. If you get one of mine, I'll sign it for you and mail it off to you right away.
Very good. Thank you, brother. Thank you. I'm going to hold you over a little bit. And guys, we'll catch you on the next one. Don't forget, tickets are on sale right now. Quantum Summit, 1776.com. We're moving the event downstairs because yesterday it was already record number of sales on tickets, because they're coming because they all want to see the free energy technology. So awesome.